Hello, good people. How are you today? I hope that you are doing well and today finds you in uh, perfect peace, right? So today is June 18th. Today is June 18th, which makes it the 18th day of Uterine Cancer Awareness Month. And as a uterine health advocate, I am committed to sharing information during the month, every day during the month of June regarding uterine health or uterine cancer. So I'm excited that I'm still rocking and rolling and you're still here with me. So I want to say thank you so much for engaging with this channel, whether it's viewing, subscribing, commenting, liking, sharing, all the things. I'm very, 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 very appreciative of you being here with me and us learning and growing together about all things uterine health or uterine cancer. So I always like to make a disclaimer. It's written, but I like to make it vocally that I am not a medical doctor. I am a uterine health advocate. Okay. So I was just thinking yesterday that over the 17 days, I've shared, various information and topics about uterine health and, uterine cancers, even finding out, about sarcoma, for example. I didn't even know about that and different things that I'm learning as I'm sharing with you as well regarding our uterine health. And I noticed that there were a lot of common threads or conditions in a lot of the various diagnoses of what could be causing this to your uterine health or potential uterine cancer. I've been noticing that a couple of things have like stood out for me. And one of the things that I really got curious about was when women are estrogen dominant and how it relates to our uterine health. So I was really curious about that when women are estrogen dominant because I have seen it listed. Sorry, I was looking at my mic. I have seen it listed in so many different things, and you've heard me mention it over the last 17 days in various ways. So I thought I would just take a deep dive in it and figure out what that really means. So, estrogen dominance occurs when estrogen levels are too high relative to progesterone. This is a hormonal imbalance that can happen because estrogen is excessively high or because progesterone levels are too low to counteract estrogen's normal effect, leaving estrogen unopposed, basically out there. Um, and just because you're estrogen dominant doesn't really mean that your overall estrogen level is above normal. Even if both hormones, your estrogen and your progesterones, are within the standard range, a ratio that is heavily skewed towards estrogen can cause a disruptive symptom. So just because you're estrogen driven is what I gathered from this doesn't mean that your levels are way above. It could just be how it's skewed, and the skew leads more towards the estrogen, which cause disruptive symptoms in your body. So basically, when you're estrogen dominant, that just means that your estrogen levels are high, and there's not enough progesterone to counteract the counteract estrogen, and that leaves estrogen unopposed, and estrogen is just out there like out there doing its business and causing a lot of disruptive symptoms for us in our uterine health. So some of the common symptoms when you are estrogen dominant regarding to uterine health, and remember, this is when estrogen overpowers progesterone. It can trigger a lot of things within our body. So regarding uterine health, if you are estrogen dominant, you might have heavy or irregular periods. You could have severe mood swings, anxiety, irritability. You could have breast swelling and tenderness. You might have fatigue and sleep disturbances. You might have weight gain, particularly around the hips, the thighs, and the waist. It can development of uterine fibroids and endometriosis. So those are just some of the things that can happen to us when we are estrogen dominant in our bodies. I'm just trying to get this all in my head too as I talk to you about it. So some of the main causes for this is estrogen dominance is often driven by a combination of lifestyle, environmental, and biological factors. So I just want to go over a couple of those that I was able to find. So if you are estrogen dominant, and again, this is I just put in the queue estrogen dominant regarding uterine health. Estrogen dominance does affect other parts of our body, but since I'm a uterine health advocate, I decided to hone it in just to uterine health. So, stress. High levels of chronic stress deplete your cortisol, which lowers your body's ability to produce progesterone. And we all know that they say, stress is a silent killer. So, which is true because things, when that stress hits our body, it affects us in so many different ways. And now we're seeing that again, chronic stress can deplete the cortisol, which takes away from the production of progesterone. And this is just a sign, another sign to us as women that we need, I don't know how we do it, but we need to take our cape off and try to pace ourselves when possible and choose our battles wisely because stress comes in so many different forms. Trust me, I am not speaking from a woman that isn't under a lot of stress at this moment in her own life, right? So one of the other combinations is, so stress was the first one. The second cause of this is liver and gut health. So the liver is responsible for breaking down and clearing out excess estrogen from the body, right? So if you have a sluggish liver function, constipation, or poor gut bacteria can cause estrogen to recirculate and build up in the body. So when we see all these things lately, I've seen a lot, I'm sure you have too, talking about our gut health. I don't think people talk about the liver as much and what it really does and its function in our body. But when we figure out all of this stuff, we see how important it is that one thing does affect our uterine health. And as we're, becoming all of us are becoming uterine health advocates and we want to have a healthy uterine, we have to look at all the various things that's going on in our lives and how we can make a change. So number one is stress. Number two is liver and gut health. The third one is body fat. And I've talked about that in a number of videos as well. So a higher percentage of body fat can inherently increase estrogen levels. And I was reading something, I think I talked about in one of the other videos about how I guess the body fat kind of like tells your body that it's estrogen and it makes it's not really estrogen, I think, but it just some kind of way reads as estrogen in your body, having that body fat. And then there are xenoestrogens. So that would be the fourth one. And that is exposure to environmental chemicals, such as BPA in plastics, pesticides, and certain ingredients in cosmetics can mimic estrogen in the body. And I think that this is so true when we come to, when we think about the xenoestrogens, because I've been, advocating to my family a lot. Even when we buy, I don't have anything here. Oh, I have this. Even when we buy, I'm grabbing this. It just happened to be here. This is an old Gatorade bottle. I upcycle everything, so I'll be using this in the garden only for things I need to do. But we'll take a bottle like this, and I'm not speaking against the company or the organization. I'm just using this because it's a plastic bottle, and we'll reuse it over and over again. But even our regular water bottles, they say after a while, especially the plastic ones, that after a while, even though the hard plastic ones, I don't have one handy, that you shouldn't be using it for like 5-10 years. And I even remember there was one that's a real popular brand that people didn't clean it, and there was even mold at the top of that popular brand. And when you think about how you use plastic containers, and after a while they get old, and you're microwaving them, you're putting hot stuff in it, and you see the bottom of it, throw it away. Yeah. So I definitely believe xenoestrogens have definitely affects especially when I see the BPA in plastics and, the pesticides. Be very careful about when we're spraying things, So those are things. So the fifth thing is certain medications. So that can be hormone replacement therapy or specific birth control pills can sometimes lead to an excessive estrogen if the dosage is not properly balanced, which is why when my doctor, so I'm on, if you follow my story, my journey, I am on progesterone because they felt like my doctor felt that my uterine lining was growing due to having too much estrogen. in my body. It didn't have anywhere to go, so my uterine lining was growing, and so I am on progesterone to counterbalance, like it says, so that the estrogen in my body is just not running out, just not being dominant and unchecked. So progesterone is in there, like, hey, I'm here. So one of the things that I did was, and I talked about this too, is I did want to know what prescription my doctor was giving me and the milligrams that they were, the dosage amount. And I did do my own research about that because I wanted to make sure, was this a normal level? Was this a high level? And all of those things. So I'm at a good level according to my research with the progesterone that I am taking. But I am going to talk to my doctor to see how long should I be on this estrogen. Progesterone, excuse me. So the common causes, I'm going to repeat them for us, for being estrogen dominant: stress, liver and gut health, body fat, xenoestrogens, and certain medications. So that's why we have to do our due diligence, to understand what we're intaking in our body and everyday things that we're exposing ourselves to. It even says here certain cosmetics. So I don't know if that's the least expensive brands of cosmetics, or if it's the high end, or if it's the whole thing. So I don't even know how you test that, in a lot of things. So we want to talk about diagnosis and management. So if you think, based on some of these things, that you might be estrogen dominant, you know what I'm about to say, right? Go see your doctor, work with a medical professional. Your doctor, when you talk to them, they can help alleviate some of the things, because you might be thinking it's this and it's that. And if you paid it, and as you're reviewing the last 17 days, a lot of things that I have mentioned is because there was an estrogen dominance in the body, and it causes to affect our uterine health. And if not careful, it can lead to, unfortunately, uterine cancers as well. So, so some of the things, and you can get I think you can use a blood test to measure your hormone levels. I've often wondered if having a hormonal test is valuable. I'm thinking about looking into that as well. But then talking to your doctor, every doctor is going to tell you to lose weight and things of that nature. So, but I think it's important that you develop your own. I always advocate for you to go to the doctor, right? And talk to your medical professional about anything that you're feeling and seeing in your body, or something that's just off. And when something is just off in your body, And I often talk about, these subject and topics. Hopefully they'll, have you to have a very more informed conversation with your doctor and develop a plan of healing for your health goals. But there are things that we can do ourselves, that we don't have to go to the doctor. There's, things that we can do to, figure out how we can alleviate some stress in our life, right? See how we can do things to change our gut and liver health, right? What can we do to change our, not be around such, what do they call it? Xenoestrogens, Father God, my goodness. I just learned that doing this. And, we can look for medical interventions that we're having that, will put progesterone in our bodies. But we do have to be very, very careful about that. So everything doesn't have to go to a doctor. Some things we all know is just plain that we can develop something within ourselves. It's changing our diet, working out. And I'm just going to encourage you, don't underestimate the power of walking. Even if you just walk to the end of your cul-de-sac, your block, and come back every day, you're doing something. Just get the body moving and really look at what you're putting into your body. And that includes me as well, because right now I really want a piece of caramel cake. I do. So, and one of the things I decided to do, because I am postmenopausal, I wanted to know, what does it mean to be estrogen dominant as a postmenopausal woman? And it just says that, one of the key causes after menopause is the ovaries stop producing the bulk of your estrogen postmenopausal, but your fat cells continue and form estrogen. Oh, and in a form of estrogen. I don't know why I'm looking at this like I had seen this before. So your fat cells continue to synthesize a form of estrogen. So, it's still there. So although our ovaries have stopped producing it, our fat cells are producing a form of it, right? And then the second reason for key causes after menopause to be estrogen dominant is the HRT imbalance. Some taking of the estrogen only HRT can lead to unopposed estrogen if your dosage is too high or you're not prescribed progesterone. So some people are taking estrogen only HRT, hormone replacement therapy medication, and that could, after menopause, cause you to be estrogen dominant. The other thing is, stress. Chronic stress depletes progesterone as your body converts it to cortisol. So this is very interesting to me because chronic stress, and okay, I was going to say something, but I think I should be quiet about. There's a lot going on in this world today, so it can be very stressful. And one of the things that I have tried to alleviate from my chronic stress is that I don't listen to a lot of media. I just don't listen to a lot of things that incite fear because that just kind of messes with your nervous system. There's enough going on in the world that I don't have to turn it on and look at it. I do watch the news because I think it's important to be informed about what's going on in our local cities and my country and the world at large. But I cannot kind of pause it. I read books, but I don't read every type of book because I need to have peace. Like it's summertime now. Although I'm not at the beach, I'm just reading beach reads at the moment because they just, it's almost like, the estrogen and progesterone, right? The beach reads and the calm reads, it kind of like balances out everything that's happening around me that, causes your stress levels to do that. So you need to find something that makes, that brings you some kind of peace, that brings you some kind of joy so that you can kind of balance out what's going on. If you have that capacity, I don't want to be insensitive to people that just don't have that capacity because they're just tired. So the other thing is that, and they talk about the fourth thing when you're after menopause that causes you to be estrogen dominant is the xenoestrogens. It says endocrine disrupting chemicals found in certain plastics, pesticides, and cosmetic can mimic estrogen in the body. And your endocrine system is the one that where all of your kind of controls your hormones and things of that nature. So this has been very interesting for me to understand what it really means to be estrogen dominant, and how it affects our uterine health. And I guess I was expecting something so different, but when I look at the main causes of it, stress, liver and gut health, body fat, xenoestrogens, and certain medications, it wasn't as, I don't know, I was looking for something deeper, I guess. And these seem like some things, if we can make a difference ourselves, and we can make better decisions about things that we are doing. I don't have any plastic containers in my house, unless I'm just, I do have some in the car in case I'm out someplace at somebody's house and I have to pick up something. But everything in my house is glass, and I've been that way for years. Even before I knew all of this stuff, I just like the aesthetic of it. And when I have plastic containers, I don't hold on to them. I don't I do like to upcycle things, but usually outside in the garden. But I don't upcycle them in the house. And so that is something that I've been working with my family, especially the older generation, about. Throw the plastic bottle away after so long. And they were even saying years ago, if you have a plastic water bottle and you have water in it, and then you leave it like in your car in the summertime, it can even change the chemicals in that water bottle. I don't know if that's still true now, but that's what I heard. So, I think some parts of us that, we have the control, we have some control over changing our lifestyles for the better. And I hope that this encourages you to look at some of the things that you could change in your life for the better. And those those glasswares are always on sale. I got them from Aldi. You can find them sometime at the secondhand stores. So it's not like they're not hard to find. But I do think that we need to look at how we're living our lives and how we can promote our own uterine health, right? So, of course, per usual, I have some articles for reference. I have them here for you. So the first one is from the Cleveland Clinic, and this was just done in April 2026, and it's entitled High Estrogen. The second one, which I was surprised from, was from the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. It's a whole health library, and it talks about estrogen dominance. So I thought that was pretty cool from them. There's something called Enito, I hope I got that right.com. And it talks about estrogen. The title of it is Estrogen Dominance and How It Affects the Body. And it's like a blog. And the other one is from Dr. Ruthie Harper, is a blog too. She has her own website, and it talks about estrogen dominance and female health problems. So those will all be in the description. And again, I provide these to you because I do know a lot of times we are going through things in our bodies and we're searching for answers. And a lot of times we're tired and we just don't know where to go. These are prompts for you to click on and then go down your own rabbit hole so you can see what resonates with your body, not to self-diagnose you, but at least to help you be prepared so that when you do go talk to your medical provider, your doctor, you can say, well, do you feel like I'm an estrogen dominant because I'm feeling this, 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 and this? Or even talking to your doctor, help me. How do I, change my lifestyle so I can start um, having better gut health and things of that nature. And there's all kinds of things out there to be able to help you as well. So I hope this information today about, being estrogen dominant and how it relates to our uterine health was very informational for you today. And that I hope that, something I said inspired you to make at least one change, make at least one change in your life today that you know that you could do to help promote your own uterine health without you having to go to the doctor. So I will talk to you soon. I hope that you have a great day.